Hello gardeners, welcome to the Living Soil Lab. What if the secret to gigantic plants isn't what you think? Forget traditional fertilizers. We're about to uncover how hostas, yes, hostas, are revolutionizing soil fermentation to cultivate garden monsters you won't believe. Prepare to have your mind blown and your garden transformed. The garden's secret weapon. Standing in my garden last summer, I stared at a tomato plant that had somehow grown twice the size of its neighbors, producing fruit so large they required two-hand harvesting. The only difference in its care was that I'd been dumping my hosta trimmings around its base all season, letting them decompose in place. This accidental discovery led me down a rabbit hole of experimentation that revealed something extraordinary about these shade-loving perennials. Hostas contain unique compounds in their leaves and stems that, when properly fermented, create a biological soil amendment so powerful it transforms ordinary plants into genuine giants. Unlocking hosta power. The breakthrough came when I stopped thinking about hostas as merely ornamental shade plants and started examining their biochemical composition. Hosta leaves contain high concentrations of saponins, complex carbohydrates, and amino acids that, when broken down through controlled fermentation, become rocket fuel for soil microorganisms. Unlike simple composting where materials slowly decompose through general microbial action, fermentation harnesses specific beneficial bacteria and fungi that predigest these hosta compounds into immediately bioavailable forms that plants can absorb within hours rather than weeks. The fermentation process works by creating an anaerobic environment where lactobacillus bacteria, the same beneficial microbes found in yogurt and kimchi, break down hosta tissue into organic acids, enzymes, and growth-promoting compounds. These substances don't just feed plants directly, but stimulate explosive growth in soil microbial populations, particularly mycorrhizal fungi and nitrogen-fixing bacteria that form symbiotic relationships with plant roots. The result is a living soil amendment that continues working long after application, creating cascading benefits throughout your garden's ecosystem. Creating hosta-fermented soil begins with harvesting mature hosta leaves during their peak growing season when compound concentrations are highest, typically from mid-June through August. Chop the leaves into roughly 1-inch pieces using garden shears or a machete, as smaller pieces ferment more completely and quickly. Fill a 5-gallon bucket about 2/3 full with these chopped hosta leaves, then add unchlorinated water until the plant material is completely submerged, leaving about 2 inches of headspace at the top. The magic ingredient that kickstarts proper fermentation is a tablespoon of blackstrap molasses stirred into the water, providing quick energy for beneficial bacteria while the complex carbohydrates in hosta tissue break down. Cover the bucket loosely with a lid that allows gas to escape but keeps out debris and insects, as fermentation produces carbon dioxide that needs to vent. Place your fermentation bucket in a shaded area where temperatures remain between 65 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, as extreme heat or cold will slow or halt the microbial activity you're cultivating. Within 3 to 5 days, you'll notice the water darkening and developing a pleasantly sour, pickle-like aroma, which is a good sign of successful lactobacillus fermentation rather than putrefaction. Small bubbles rising to the surface signal active microbial metabolism, and a thin white film may develop on top. This is perfectly normal and just means there's beneficial yeast activity happening. The fermentation reaches peak potency around 7 to 10 days, when the liquid has turned into a rich brown tea and the hosta leaves have become soft and partially broken down. Applying the hosta elixir is a pretty straightforward process, but you do need to remember that dilution is key here. The concentrated liquid is just so biologically active that, honestly, it can overwhelm young plants if you use it full strength. So, you'll want to mix 1 part of the fermented liquid with 10 parts water for most garden use. If you have some tough, established plants that can handle a bit more, you can go for a 5-to-1 dilution. Now don't throw away those partially decomposed hosta solids left in your bucket. Instead, work them right into your garden soil or toss them into your compost pile. They'll keep releasing nutrients and all those beneficial microorganisms for months to come. As for how you apply it, well, it kind of depends on your setup. but in my experience, the most dramatic results come from soil drenching. That means pouring the diluted solution directly onto the root zone, making sure the top 6 inches of soil gets soaked. For container plants, just apply the solution until you see it draining out the bottom. That way, the whole root ball gets treated. And if you're working with raised beds or open ground, just use a watering can to evenly distribute the fermented tea around your plant bases. About 1 gallon of diluted solution per square yard of growing area seems to work great. So, what can you expect to see? Well, the transformation honestly starts within just a few days. Soil microorganisms really explode in population, and you'll notice visible changes in your plant's vigor and color. Leaves get this deep, rich green. It's a sign of increased chlorophyll production and better nitrogen uptake. New growth just takes off, with stems thickening and the spaces between leaves or internodes tightening up. When I ran side-by-side trials, my tomato plants treated with the HOSTA fermented soil produced about 40% more fruit weight than the ones that only got compost. And the peppers? Their stems were nearly twice as thick as the untreated ones. But it's not just about size. Plants treated with this stuff showed way better disease resistance, shrugging off early blight and powdery mildew that actually devastated my control plants grown under the same conditions. The beauty of HOSTA fermented soil is honestly in its simplicity and accessibility. You really don't need anything fancy, just HOSTA leaves, which you probably already have growing, a bucket and some water. This isn't complicated laboratory science or anything like that. It's just the same basic fermentation principles humans have used for thousands of years to preserve and enhance food. If you're new to this, start small, just a single bucket and a couple of test plants. Take photos and measurements so you can track those dramatic growth differences for yourself. And remember, the benefits actually compound over time. Each application builds on the last, so with repeated treatments throughout the growing season, your soil biology just gets richer and richer. So, are you ready to grow garden giants that honestly defy belief? Go ahead and subscribe to the Living Soil Lab for more innovative techniques that harness nature's hidden powers. And hey, don't forget to share this guide with fellow gardeners who are ready to revolutionize their growing game.